All right. Looks like we're ready to go. So welcome to our UDL-IRN Network and Learn. We're really excited tonight to share with you some highlights from our upcoming Summit 2020. It's going to be a great evening. You'll have a chance to hear from some of our Summit participants, as well as our fabulous Summit organizer. I'm just excited to be here with everyone tonight and facilitating the conversation. So it is I think it's our 6th annual summit, and I'll clear that up as we get to that slide, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
7th.
My name is Sue Harden, and it's 7. Is that right?
Yep, 7th.
Whoa, 7. Okay. So my name is Sue Harden, and I am on the board of the directors for the UDL-IRN and the coordinator for our professional learning committee, and delighted to be facilitating tonight's conversation. Mackenzie Nicholas, who was our summit coordinator, will be monitoring our Twitter and our chat questions today. So feel free at any point along the way, if you've got questions for either Mackenzie or any of our fine panelists tonight, pop those in either to Twitter, or if you're watching live on the webinar, go ahead and drop those into our chat. If you're on Twitter and you want to ask a question, offer a comment, share some wonderful words of wisdom from any of our presenters, please use the hashtag UDL-IRN. That's where we'll find our questions and be able to connect to you and your comments. So we are delighted to have 4 of our conference presenters tonight. I'll go over that in just a moment. But just to remind you that this is our 7th, as Mackenzie said, International Summit. This year, we are going to be on the West Coast. So we're going to have that West Coast hyper chill vibe. We will be in Silicon Valley. That is taking place April 7th, 8th, and 9th. April 7th is our pre-conference. We have actually 2 pre-conference presenters on with us tonight to share what they'll be talking about and the great kinds of things you'll be able to learn. The 8th and 9th are UDL talks, there are interactive learning sessions, and there also are breakout sessions. So the summit registration is up. If you are excited and want to join us, make sure that you get online and get registered. We know that 2020 is the year of vision. I'll let that sink in for just a minute. So get visionary with us and come join us in the Silicon Valley. So tonight, as I promised, we have 4 wonderful UDL experts who are going to share with us the content of their presentations at Summit 2020. First, we have Jennifer Pusateri from the University of Kentucky, and Jennifer is doing a pre-con session, and she'll be sharing a little information about that session. We also have Charley and Joanele Hoce, and both of them will be working together to share a breakout session. And then finally, we have Nicole Tucker-Smith, and Nicole will be talking about her presentation. She has 3 sessions. She has a pre-conference session, she has a UDL talk, and she's doing an interactive. So Nicole will be busy at the summit. Anyway, sit back and enjoy. Again, feel free to ask questions either in our chat or on online space. Mackenzie will give us a poke if something comes in that we need to address along the way. Otherwise, I'm going to mute my microphone, and I believe Jennifer is up first. So I will pass it off to you, Jennifer, and just let me know when you'd like me to change slots.
Great. Thank you so much, Sue. So hi, everybody. This is very exciting. I can't wait to go. In fact, we had a little taste of warmth today in Kentucky. It was about 60 degrees here, and so that makes me want to go even more to California. So I am at the University of Kentucky, and that is my Twitter handle. I'd love to hear from anybody. If you have questions, feel free to send them my way. And if you'll go to the next slide, Sue. So I have 2 sessions that I want to talk about today. The first is the pre-conference workshop, and the title of this is From UDL Lone Wolf to UDL Pack Leader. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. And then if you'll put the next one up, the breakout session I'll be doing is actually going to be with a co-presenter, and it's called UDL for the Reluctant Teacher. So let's move ahead and we'll get right into that pre-con workshop. All right, you can go ahead. Just a header. So this pre-conference session it's going to be a 3-hour session, and it's really aimed at folks who have kind of just started with UDL implementation in their schools, and they're really looking to take that next step. So this is going to be for teachers, teacher leaders, instructional coaches, administrators, even folks that are at the district and state level. If you are in love with UDL and you're not really sure how to get other people in love with UDL, then this is really the session for you. You can go ahead to the next slide. So you're going to be doing all kinds of stuff, but what we are going to be really digging into are a few different things. And so one of those is lesson planning. Anytime I take something out to a school and talk about UDL, once they kind of get the general idea of what UDL is about, the next thing they're like, okay, show me how. Like, show me how to do this. I don't know how to do UDL. And so this session is going to show you 3 different ways that you can plan lessons with UDL, but then you can also share that with other teachers in the building who may be trying to figure out how to use UDL as well. So you'll have that in there. We'll be talking about how to plan your UDL professional development for your school or for your district. We'll be looking at the idea of collecting and sharing data, which I know when I was in the classroom, that was not something I was thinking about. But when you're really trying to share with people the power of UDL, having that data from your classroom is really helpful. So we'll talk a little bit about how to do that. We'll be looking at doing some planning for some of the barriers that may come up with the teachers that are in your building or in your district. And then we'll talk about classroom observations, how to do that, how to maybe use an observation rubric or a worksheet or some kind of a thing that you can fill out as you're watching people teach with UDL. Because as we know, peer feedback and watching your peers teach is one of the best things that you can do for learning. And we'll go to the next slide. And so these are sort of the goals of the pre-conference workshop. So when you leave, you should be able to utilize a toolkit of strategies, and you'll have all kinds of stuff in there that I will give you for you to use in your school district. You'll be developing a 5-part plan for building some lasting change in your school. And we know as educators that we get these sort of the new initiative, right, that kind of comes out every year, and we really want UDL to be a long-lasting change. And so this is going to help us figure out how we can be planning ahead for that. And then we'll also be working on designing your own UDL 101 type session. So those are the things that we'll be accomplishing during the 3-hour session. You want to move ahead? So this is I just have a couple slides in here that I'll be using. These are the 3 different lesson planning strategies that we'll work through. And head to the next one. I feel like I need that little like ding, like with the film strip. If you guys remember the film strips in like elementary school, that's what we need, ding. So this is called the Noster Model for managing complex change. And I really like this when I'm thinking about taking UDL to the next level in my school. This helps me to be proactive and plan for the things that maybe I hadn't thought about. And so this particular model tells us that there are 5 major things that you need to have if you're going to have complex change in your building. And if any one of those is missing, then you see over to the right, it tells you sort of what the result is. So for example, if you have all the things except that the people that really aren't they're not real comfortable with the skills, they don't have the skills they need, then what happens is it ends in anxiety. So if we build all these things in ahead of time, then we're really helping ourselves to build complex change with UDL in our classrooms. You can go ahead to the next slide. This one is the breakout session. And I worked with this young lady right here. This is Lois Sepabon, and Lois is, she's actually a published author. She has a book called Paper Wishes, which is, I think it's a middle school age level type book. But after she published this, she decided she wanted to teach. And so she is in fact the 8th grade language arts teacher at a school, a middle school in Central Kentucky. And so Lois and I worked together as part of a pilot that I brought into her school. And when I first met her, she was really not, I mean, she liked the ideas of UDL, but she was very skeptical up front. And then as we worked through the pilot, she really found some ways to make UDL work for her. So let's go ahead to the next slide. So this session is going to be with myself and Lois. We'll both be there together. And it's really aimed, again, at people who are kind of trying to move UDL out of just this is about, this is my thing that I do in my classroom, to this is what we do in our whole building, or this is what we do in our whole district. So if that applies to you in your school setting, then this is a good session for you to come to. You can go ahead to the next slide. So we found that when you're kind of out and talking to teachers about UDL, you have sort of three groups of teachers. You have the first group, which is like, yes, this is amazing. This is what I've been waiting for. And they're ready. Then you've got the folks in the middle who are like, nope, I'm not changing, like I'm not doing it. And then there are also some folks that are with our little right emoji over there that says, it sounds good, but I just can't fathom how to make that happen in my classroom. And that is the reluctant teacher that we're going to be really gearing this toward. So if that reluctant teacher is you, or if you maybe have a reluctant teacher or a few reluctant teachers in your building, then this might be a good session for you to come to. And we'll go ahead to the next slide. So these are our goals. We'll be looking at what specific barriers there are for teachers who are a little bit reluctant about using UDL in the classroom. So we'll do some brainstorming with that, but also talk about how you can ameliorate those barriers. We'll be looking at ways to help the teachers move through sort of the process of feeling anxious or overwhelmed, or maybe not wanting to let go of some control of the classroom, how to do that in small, manageable steps. And then we'll be also talking about building a UDL professional learning network and doing that as you go. And that's going to really help. That's going to help those teachers who are reluctant, but it's also going to help you as well. And I just looked up there and realized I had not changed the header for that one. So I was still talking about the session, not the workshop. So in the session, we'll be talking about these 4 areas that are possible barriers for reluctant teachers: stress, lack of administrative support, financial support, and student attitudes. And then we'll be talking, of course, about what we can do to help remove some of those barriers. And you can go ahead. And I just wanted to put this on here because when Lois and I were talking about this workshop or this session, she sort of just typed up her thoughts and why she thought this would be a good session. And this is one of the things that she said. So she said, when I let go of the idea that I must control every aspect of my classroom, from where students sit to who they work with to how they demonstrate their knowledge, she now has more time. And that makes me laugh, especially when I think back to 3 years ago and how my biggest fear of UDL was that I didn't have enough time. And so I love that, because I love that she's being real honest about, I really was not 100% on board with this pilot. But by the time I've tried it out in my classroom, little by little, I dipped my toe in and I found some real success with that. And so now 3 years later, Lois and one of the other teachers that was a part of the pilot program have sort of taken on UDL in their school. And they are now the teacher leaders of a summer program where they're taking a whole nother group of teachers through the process of learning about UDL and learning how to use it in their classroom. So, she really, really found a lot of benefit in that. And I'm so glad that she's going to be able to come with me and share that with folks at the summit. And so that's all I got.
I love that quote. That's a fabulous quote.
Yeah.
So real quick, before we move on to Nicole, I just want to ask, you have presented at several past summits. So I just want you to speak a little bit about presenting and how it's gone for you in the past, and kind of other things that you look forward to for the summit this year.
Yeah, I like the summit. I'll say that I'm not a big fan of the conference proceedings because I hate writing, but I do it, thank God. But I do like actually that kind of academic rigor that we apply to the IRN. I think it's really helpful, and I think it also sort of backs me up as someone who's coming now out of a university setting, that I can come to the UDL-IRN Summit and be like, well, yes, maybe I'm presenting on things that really apply more to K-12 teachers, but I'm also going to be going to sessions while I'm there. And the sessions I'm going to be going to are ones that are built in research and really the academic pursuits behind UDL. And I love that. I always love presenting in any way. It gets me back to my roots of being a teacher, and so I love that. But this particular summit is really one of my favorites, and so I'm looking forward to it, and I hope everybody else enjoys it as much as I do. And I will be bringing, actually, I should have brought this out. I will be wearing my UDL hat, which I'm so excited about.
I saw that on Twitter. That is so cool.
So I will have this. I made it, but I could not tell you how I made it. Like I just made it up as I went along. So like there's no pattern. And it's like half crocheted and half knitted, but whatever, it's all good. And it's the hat itself is very UDL. It was a multiple expressions of knitting and crocheting.
That's
Okay.
great. I love that. We'll know how to find you, Jennifer. We'll
That's
just look
right.
in the hat. Yes.
Look for the brain.
I just wanted to make a couple comments. Mackenzie, were you done with questions? I'm sorry.
No, I am. Go right ahead.
I'm just going to make a couple comments. As I was listening to your pre-conference, a couple of things really struck me. You were talking about opportunity to encourage teachers to invite people in and to do observations in their classroom. And I was just thinking that, that's such a big piece of our professional learning. You alluded to this, of course, that, this is one of the best ways that we all learn is by learning from each other, by watching it in action. And I think that's just so important when, you were trying to answer the show me how question. I think that's one of those answers, right? The show me how is come in and see. Come and see what it looks like in action. And we can move from there.
Yeah, agreed. And, we're going to be sharing an observation guide, or I will be sharing an observation guide that I've used in the past. And I could even see a teacher who is the UDL lone wolf inviting people into the classroom and saying, here, you fill this out while you're watching me and let me know what things you see and what things you don't see. And that helps me. And then whenever it isn't, they're in the other situation, then I'm going into someone else's classroom to watch them. If they've already had that experience, it's not going to be as intimidating to them. So I think there's a lot of fun applications there.
Absolutely. And I have to just tell you that I have lost my feed here momentarily. I tried to shut something out and the whole thing went down on me. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Nicole start. Let me just make one other comment about Jennifer's that I just wanted to point out. I really do also, it resonates with me to talk about reluctant teachers. I think, we're often talking about struggling students and our role in making sure that we address their needs. And I think that's the same thing that we need to apply to reluctant teachers, right? All means all. So we really do have to make sure that regardless of our level of discomfort when we're addressing teachers who maybe aren't quite as enthusiastic, that we still need to make sure that we are bringing everybody into the tent. So I want to make that.
Yeah.
I'm going to mute, and Nicole, you go ahead and start and talk about your sessions. And oh, look at that. On my Twitter feed, I don't know where it's all blowing up. I'm going to get rid of that. And then I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint presentation, but you please go ahead and start.
Okay, great. While the PowerPoint is coming up, I would like to take this moment to just give a little bit of background on who I am, because my background really influences the presentations that I'll be doing at the UDL-IRN in April. So I started as a middle school teacher. I was also a principal and system-wide coordinator of professional development and training for a large school district in Maryland, Baltimore County Public Schools. And through all of those experiences, I really felt this need to move professional learning to not just about learning about it, but doing about it. There needed to be more doing, more application. I felt that what was happening in professional development stayed in professional development and didn't necessarily translate into changes in practice. So I am currently the co-founder and CEO of LessonCast, which is a professional development organization focused on just that, putting professional development into practice. And it's through LessonCast that I met the folks at CAST. And so I am a member of the CAST national faculty, and I've had an opportunity over years and years really to work with schools, districts, and states in implementing UDL. And so the three presentations or the three learning opportunities really that I'm going to be doing over the course of the conference are really around this idea of really building effective implementation, really setting the stage for sustained change. And so if you go ahead and go to the slide there, great. So there are three opportunities where I will be presenting. The first two I am co-presenting. So the first is the pre-conference session on April 7th. I am co-presenting that with Kasia Derbancheska. And the title of that session is Supercharge Your Professional Development, Build Capacity to Facilitate Effective UDL Implementation. And really for all of these sessions, the audience is pretty similar. Really, this is targeted for individuals who are tasked with or who are taking on really building capacity and implementation within their community. So if you're responsible for helping your community or others learn about UDL, if you're an instructional coach, if you're a professional development leader, if you're a principal, if you're really trying to mobilize your community and help spread and facilitate effective implementation of UDL, these sessions are for you. And so with the pre-conference session, we have those 3 hours, and we're really focused on the question, what concrete strategies can educators use to support effective implementation of UDL among the teachers within their community? And so we're applying in this session, my co-presenter and I are applying a health and wellness metaphor, a health and wellness approach to looking at how can we provide holistic change. How are we really removing barriers to adult learning? We relate that to removing toxins. How are we sustaining effort and persistence? We call it use it or lose it. And how are we maximizing transfer through reflection and through mindfulness? And so we have 10 concrete strategies that participants will experience over the course of those 3 hours, but then also be able to think about how they're going to apply those strategies in their communities. And because these are practical, hands-on, concrete strategies, all the participants will also walk away with takeaway materials, because we're really about putting these ideas into practice. So the participants will have a takeaway kit of materials to help them incorporate these strategies into their UDL implementation initiatives. Then the second learning opportunity is the interactive session. And there our title is Let's Get Clear, Designing Highly Effective Professional Development that Models UDL. Now, this session is really focused on making sure that we're not just doing sit and get professional development, but the teachers have an opportunity to interact, to engage, to connect, to learn, to envision, to apply, to reflect. And so typically professional development, we sometimes fall into this trap of doing a lot of lecture because we have so many things to cover, and because they're adults, they'll take this, they'll be able to do and apply later. But really what we're talking about here in this interactive session are strategies to help teachers work through multimodal professional development. So how are we providing balanced multimodal professional development where our teachers can connect with the ideas and think about how it applies to their daily work? How is what they're learning relevant to their day-to-day work and activities? Then how can we really deepen learning, not just surface learning, but really deepen learning? What about our vocabulary? Are we all talking about the same things, right? How are we connecting this to what we're already doing in the classroom so that we can then start to envision what a classroom might look like when we apply this new target practice of UDL? So we move from connecting to learning to envisioning what UDL might look like in our space, to applying it, even having some practice opportunities to apply within the session, and then building in reflection opportunities. So we use a mnemonic, CLEAR, to help, again, PD leaders, principals, instructional coaches design highly effective PD that also models UDL. So this is not just PD on UDL, but how are we really, really modeling UDL? And then the last learning opportunity where I'll be presenting is the UDL talk. And this one is called the UDL dance, moving from preparation to practice to performance to effectively implement UDL. So in addition to being an educator, I am also a dancer. So that's me. And I am making a question mark because I'm using a dance metaphor to talk about moving through these phases of implementation through questions. There are certain questions that need to be asked at the preparation stage, certain questions that need to be asked and answered at the practice stage, and certain questions that need to be asked and answered at the performance stage. And so we might cycle back and forth through those stages, but what are the things that we need to keep in mind? The questions that as leaders, as PD coordinators, as principals, instructional coaches, in teacher leaders as well. What are the questions that we need to be able to ask and in turn answer in order to really build sustained change in implementing UDL? So those are the 3 learning opportunities. And if you go to the next slide, a lot of the strategies that I'll be presenting actually come from a book that I have out. It's on the CAST publishing page now. Its official release is February 14th. So happy Valentine's Day, woohoo! And but you can pre-order now, just to give you an idea of these are some of the concrete strategies that we will be exploring more at the conference. And so I just wanted to give a heads up there in case anyone was interested in checking it out.
Now you'll bring some of those with you, right, to the summit?
Yes, and so I am in the process of coordinating that with CAST Publishing, but we will have copies. Yes.
Awesome. Mackenzie, did you have questions for Nicole?
Yeah, so Nicole, you mentioned your organization LessonCast, and I know you will be participating in the Interactive Learning Village this year. Can you just give us a sneak peek at what plans you have to participate in the Interactive Learning Village?
Yes, so with LessonCast, part of our 2020 initiative is to talk about how we can provide flexible options for the districts that we work with. So for example, we have this, we're thinking through this idea of how do you have flexible professional development options? So we're really clear on our goals for PD, but how do we provide PD leaders with flexible options? And so what I'm going to bring to the Interactive Learning Village are a range of PD content options. So you can kind of play around with, okay, here's a way that we can offer this same content, but in a variety of ways so that we can remove barriers and meet the needs of our variable adult learners and variable adult learning communities. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm very excited about it. Hopefully others will be, I geek out on this stuff, so hopefully others will be excited about it too. But it's this idea of flexible professional learning options and kind of mixing, matching, and experimenting that way.
That's awesome. I love that. That's very exciting. And may I just say that is a beautiful picture of you dancing. So, but in between you and, you know, brain hats, we have quite the artistic little panel here.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that, Mackenzie. I am excited, Nicole, to hear your UDL talk. I hope you'll treat us to some dancing.
Oh, maybe a clip. I was planning to embed a few clips just because at this point I am over 40. And so while I can still do all the moves, it requires an extensive warm up. So I have little video snippets in the talk.
That's wonderful. It'll be the first time when someone says, well, you could just do interpretive dance where it might actually apply, right?
It will actually apply.
I'm also excited to hear about your, sharing about adult learning strategies. I think that sometimes we skip over that, right? And we just go right to the heart of here's the thing I want you to know, and just kind of everything out there. So I think it's really important that one of the best ways I think that we learn about UDL is we experience it. And the only way we can experience it is if somebody's providing us that structure and that opportunity in our professional learning. So I'm super excited. I'll be there at your session and look forward to learning more about that.
Great.
I think that you guys, if you're watching and if you're not excited yet, I'm not sure what else we can throw at you, but we've got Charley and Joanele to go ahead and add to that. So we are super excited to hear what you have to say. And we're going to give the floor over to you. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen. So you guys will be proud and proud and you'll take up the whole center of the screen.
Well, thank you, Sue. We're really excited to be here, and we will try not to jump around and dance around too much, even though our session promises to be highly interactive.
So I am Charley Hoce, is my wife Joanele, an educational partner. We are coming to you from National Trail Local Schools in Preble County, Ohio. And to give you an idea where that is, we are 90 minutes from Columbus, Ohio, and 90 minutes from Indianapolis, Indiana. So we're right on the Indiana-Ohio border. We are a small school. We have about 1,200 students, K-12. Total. It's all on one campus. We are extremely, extremely rural. Our school is surrounded by cornfields. It's all we have around us, cornfields. We're made up of 3 really small communities. One of the reasons we mention that is so people know that UDL can be done anywhere. If you have the right mindset, UDL can be done anywhere. I taught in the K-4 building at National Trail for 35 years. The first 20 years I taught 2nd and 3rd grade, went back to college, got my reading endorsement, became a reading specialist, and spent my last 15 years being a reading specialist because I saw how many students were falling through the cracks was struggling with reading and writing. So it was really became a passion for me to go back and work with those struggling readers and writers. Joanele and I are semi-retired. We're not in the classroom anymore, but we do professional development for teachers and for administrators. We also have an educational consulting business called Learning Adventures, where we focus on author visits, writers and residence programs, and of course, UDL. Joe?
And my background is very similar to Charlie's. As a matter of fact, when I started teaching back in the early 1980s, he was my mentor. We ended up, it was, again, being a very small rural district. We married and continued to teach in the same building. And we were even able to teach as part of the same team, which is really what got us into really formalizing our philosophy, which was so well aligned with UDL. Our first introduction to UDL was through reading Katie Novak's UDL Now. And that really got us excited because it was so well aligned with exactly our philosophy about teaching and reaching out to all students and being just fully inclusive and setting up the learning environment. We were really excited 2 years ago to have the opportunity to go to the UDL Summit in Orlando, and just to find out that the kinds of things that we were doing to lead our small rural district into establishing the UDL framework and getting the mindset right for us to work with all students, we were on the right pathway. So.
And you want to talk about your administrator?
Yeah. In addition to being a teacher, I was also a curriculum director and a principal. And so that really enabled me to do a lot with the research and the background, and to know that what we were doing really was based in those important tenets.
And one of the things she mentioned is she was a principal. She was actually a principal in the building that I was teaching. So the joke was always, she's your boss at work and she's your boss at home. Okay. But we have really been connected as educators for a long time. Like I said, we met through teaching, and we actually had a great opportunity where we got to teach together with 2 other teachers and a team teaching situation in a fully inclusive multi-age classroom. And that doesn't sound great now, but this was 25 years ago. And this was in an extremely small rural district where no one was doing it. And we got rid of the textbooks, we got rid of the desk. And the main thing is we got rid of the labels on students. We took every label off of a student. If title students didn't know who they were, the kids didn't know who they were, the IEP students didn't know, the kids didn't know who they were. The teachers, we all took part in teaching all of the students. We had the intervention specialist was one of the teachers in our group, but the kids never knew her as that. The title teacher was in there. They never knew that person as that. They just knew us as teachers because we taught the kids developmentally where they were at.
And that's why our excitement in reading Katie's book led us to working with our building leadership team. And they had been introduced to some of the basic philosophies of UDL, and we're very interested in learning more about it. And the staff at National Trail Elementary just really has embraced UDL fully, and we just continue our work. We're working tomorrow, talking a little bit more about self-regulation and areas of executive function. And that really is what the topic is for our interactive session that we're going to be doing at the summit. Actually, our goal is to really demystify executive function, in particular, cognitive flexibility. And if you're looking for Jennifer wearing her UDL hat, you might be looking for Charley in striped shorts and a tank top looking a lot like Richard Simmons. I'll drag out my jazzercise, my leotards, my the leg warmers and all of those kinds of things. And we're going to lead the participants through a lot of activities that are just ready for teachers to use the next day. When you return to the classroom, there'll be activities that you can use to start to establish that environment that's going to allow students to start to open up their thinking, think more flexibly, think more creatively, and just to be able to problem solve and to develop that part of executive function.
Yeah, and this is something that Jennifer had said earlier about, watching the peers is the best way for teachers to learn. Joe and I also teach during the summer. We teach in a writing class called the Ohio Writing Project, which is related to the National Writing Project. And their philosophy, their mantra is the best teacher of a teacher is another teacher. And so we really embrace that because when we teach the writing class, it's all K-12 teachers together, and they have to do presentations, and everybody leaves with a big binder full of information. But the best teacher of a teacher is another teacher. So we want to make sure that that carries on through our presentation.
So really the goal of our session at the conference this year, which we are so excited to be able to share the information, is for participants to walk away with lots of ideas. We are going to share some background information, but have a lot of stations and a lot of things set up just to share ideas, activities for teachers to interact with each other, participants to interact with each other and share what's worked in their school, what they're doing, and also to be able to share some videos and some ideas of things that are working here at the school we're working with, the things that they're trying. So we can actually show that application in action with the students, which is what we found to be so successful last year. We had a group that did a presentation at last year's summit in Orlando that was really just amazing. It was led by the teachers, as Charlie said, the teachers teaching teachers and sharing what they were doing in their classrooms, highly interactive, and it was just so well received. And so we can't, unfortunately, bring that wonderful group of teachers with us to California, but we can bring that spirit and enthusiasm and really get people excited about what they're doing with UDL.
Yeah, that presentation last year, because I had to take everything down to Florida, I had to drive it down. 20 iPads they had set up with kids with videos and different things. 15 to 20 display boards of kids' work. They had pictures and things everywhere. I mean, they basically brought their classroom to Orlando to share it with everybody else. And it was their spring break also. So they gave up their spring break to go down and share their love for UDL with everybody else.
So we're looking forward to seeing everyone. After listening to Jennifer and Nicole talk about their sessions, now we have some big decisions to make about sessions that we're going to attend for our own personal learning. We're really looking forward to that. And just thank you to Mackenzie and to Sue and to everybody that's involved. It takes a real team to put together such a successful conference, and we're really excited about that summit.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And for those of you that have never attended one of their sessions, they are one of the highest, like they said, it's very well received, one of the best sessions at the summit. So definitely you'll want to add it to your agenda. So outside of your session, what are some other things that you enjoy about the summit, just to share with those folks that have never participated before?
Well, we'd never seen Brian Dean before, and that was quite the experience.
That's always a draw.
Yeah, he's something else. But we had loved Katie's stuff, but then to actually hear her speak and just feel the passion that she has, that really just resonated with us completely.
And it just lets us feel as teachers and educators, it really helps you to feel that you're not alone. Just the energy, the enthusiasm. It's really kind of family style professional development that we're always interacting and meeting people from all over the world, really, who share that same philosophy of education. And that's very empowering and energizing to get to experience that. And then to know that it's all based in research. We're basing all of this work in solid research of what works in education and what's best for children.
And I think the other thing that really drew us to us was UDL practices what they preach at the summit. I mean,
Yes.
Their presentations are for whatever different ways. It's not sit and get. I mean, you do different kind of activities. If something's not with you, you can get up and leave and find something else. They practice what they preach. I think that's the thing that really got to us.
It just feels different than any other
It's
conference or
absolutely.
summit or training that we've ever been to. And it just feels right. It's really good.
I'm glad you led with that at the end, because that is exactly how I was going to introduce Mackenzie and to talk about the summit. Because if you're listening and you've never been to the summit, you can kind of sense that we're not in Kansas anymore, right? This is really a different way of learning. It is about collaborative learning. It really is about immersive learning. So you heard about cognitive flexibility in our leotards. We heard about dance. We heard about rain hats. And so that really is what the summit is. It's a very immersive experience where our focus is on reducing barriers. It's on struggling learners. I love that Charlie and Joanele were talking about removing barriers. And that was really the biggest central idea at their conversation, that we can work together to really create these learning spaces where everyone has an opportunity to be successful. They started by thinking about struggling readers and writers, and really that is at the heart of where UDL began, and it's grown to be so much more along the way. I was thinking, Charlie and Joanele, as you were talking, that there's a saying that co-teaching is like a marriage. And I think you guys embody that on both sides, right? You really do have that spirit of working together to collaborate to make experiences good for kids. So thank you to all 4 of you for presenting tonight and sharing a little bit about what we're going to get to see more of at the summit. It's so exciting. I'm really super geeked up. I've been to all 6 of them, and this one sounds the best yet. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you all there in person. And those of you who are listening, come and say hello to everybody. We're all a family. Just join in. That's what we're there for. We're there to make sure that everybody learns. So Mackenzie, I'm going to pass it over to you. I'll bring up the slide deck as you're getting started, and we'll go ahead and share a little more about the summit.
Yeah, so what I have to say is not nearly as interesting as what the last 4 folks have had to say, but just to share a little bit more of the extra fun things that happened at the summit. One of the ways we kick off the actual summit, so after the pre-conference day, is we have a poster session and then a social. So that's a great opportunity for folks to get together and start kind of the networking process, if you will. So we have attendees join us from all over the world. Last year we had about a quarter of our attendees came from out of the country, and we had 13 different countries represented. So you really are establishing a network at this conference. The poster sessions are a great opportunity for folks to share their research or different projects that they've been doing as it pertains to UDL. So we are still actually accepting calls for proposals for those. So if you are interested in submitting and joining us for a poster session, that would be great. All you have to do is go to the summit website and click on the CFP tab, and then that will get you that will give you kind of instructions on how to register for that. Another way to get involved is, we've had our last 4 presenters, panelists, kind of talk through the different presentation styles that they're going to be interacting in. We have lots of presentation styles available for you this year. So last year we had one of our local architecture firms based out of Kansas City helped plan a design challenge. So you'll see that second picture is David Reed speaking with a group of kids, and we are going to bring that concept back. So what that looks like is we have local school districts come in, bring in groups of kids and faculty, and then the kids and the faculty compete against each other to design classroom spaces with alternative furniture. And then they talk through kind of why they did it and how it would help them focus during class and kind of the different elements and what they like and what they don't like. And it's a great way to interact with the whole reason why we do what we do, and it's the kids. So that's definitely a great opportunity. There are end of average talks, which are kind of intimate 18-minute talks that give folks the opportunity to talk through different projects that they're working on with UDL, different concepts in UDL. There are UDL talks, which Nicole Tucker-Smith is going to do one. Those are kind of TED style talks, 18-minute talks. So those are high in demand and very, very valuable. There are interactive pre-conference sessions. There are breakout sessions, interactive learning sessions. This year, we're going to do a tech day, which is a great way for you to kind of see some different technologies that are being utilized in the classroom. So lots of different sessions and ways to engage in the classroom. It is definitely, I'll just parrot other folks, it is definitely not a sit and get conference. You are definitely engaged the entire 3 days. The next kind of piece is social events, which is also a great way to network and engage with all these different folks that come in from around the country. We've had lots of folks reach out after the summit and say, hey, I met this person at the summit and we're writing a book together, or we're working on a research project together, or whatever it may be. And it's a great way to establish a network, even if it's just teachers from 2 different states sharing their different practices and what they're working on and what's worked for them and what hasn't. So this year we're breaking out. We have lots of morning social events, and so we call them early hour and after hour social events, and it's just a great way to establish your network. There's things like trivia, and then there's the typical social events with drinks and appetizers, and then there's plenty of activities for you to do.
I think we even had a morning run last year and yoga, and right?
We sure did. Yeah. So it's not even just all focused on UDL. Some of it's just a way to, we're at the conference together, we might as well work out together type of thing. So again, great way to establish a network. And then I just wanted to share like Sue said at the beginning, tickets are for sale now. You can go to the Summit website and register very easily. We do have a hotel block, so it's much cheaper to book through the hotel block. Please be sure to book through that way. But that's a little bit about the summit. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you to our panelists for sharing about their experiences and their presentations. And I am really looking forward to this year. It's going to be bigger and better than ever.
Thank you all. Anyone want to share some last few minutes wisdom? We've got I think we have a few minutes if anyone wants to say a final goodbye or tip, tricks, conference suggestions, feel free.
Well, I'll just say one quick thing because it occurred to me with Sue. I think it was while you were talking about, or no, actually it may have been, I'm not sure who it was, but somebody was talking about meeting Katie Novak and getting to hear her speak and all that stuff. And one of the things I love about this conference is the intellectual generosity that people have around UDL. And like now that I'm in higher ed, that is not always the case, right? There's a lot of intellectual property, like that's mine and you can't, it's, you know, that's, I worked on that, that's my thing. And that's not really how it works with the UDL crowd. And I love that. And so like, you know, I'd have these same books that probably everybody does, Katie's book and Louie's book and all these books. And like, I could go up to that person and just have a random conversation with them about whatever. And they were totally chill and down to earth and were willing to help me with anything I needed help with. And I love that. I love that. So it's a really good place to be able to have that interchange of ideas with people who are the leaders of the industry, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I really echo that, Jennifer. I think that, you know, if you're looking for a place to like to find your people, we're your people because it's just try everybody at the conference, not just the IRN specifically, but everybody comes to that building this place of welcome, right? That everybody's welcome, and we want everybody to come in and join in the great experiences that we have as a result of really applying this framework and watching kids grow and really become those expert learners we're looking for. So I agree.
And we're just really looking forward to meeting the panelists in person, attending sessions and all the other great sessions. And it really is, it's very challenging to decide which session to go to. There are so many choices. If you are even on the fence, so to speak, thinking about whether or not you want to attend. It's just the summit is wonderful. It's life-changing, and you really do build that network of professional colleagues. And Charlie wants to show a picture of just how approachable and accessible, as you were saying, Jennifer, like Katie Novak can be. This is from last year.
Yeah, it was after the summit, and we had the day, and we done our presentation, and we were walking over to get something to eat, and our group saw Katie Novak, and our teachers were like, "Oh my gosh, there's Katie Novak," and they went over and mobbed
They might
her.
have been having a little fangirl moment.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Well,
But Katie just took it all in stride, and I don't know if you can see.
over here.
Can you see the picture? I mean, she took time to just take that funny picture with her, and those teachers loved. I mean, they've all got that picture. They just loved it. She took that time, you know, because she was on her phone trying to get something done, and she stopped immediately and let them have their fangirl moment and take a picture with them. So we thought that was
Very gracious.
Yeah, extremely gracious.
And it was a good moment for all of them. Just probably the highlight of the conference for them was that she treated them that way. So
That's nice.
I love that.
That's great. And I'm really excited. This will be my first time. So I'm very excited about coming, and it seems like a conference unlike any other. So I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of it, and looking forward to meeting everyone in person and just learning more than I could have ever imagined.
We're looking forward to having you.
And with that, we'll just say good night. Thank you guys for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you all in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley in April. Everyone have a wonderful winter, and we'll see you in beautiful, sunshiny California.